if I told you the most magical garden you've ever seen could begin with the things you were about to throw away? Today, we're unlocking the secrets of turning forgotten scraps into a fairy tale escape, right in your own backyard. Welcome to Modhouse DIY, where creativity meets sustainability. In this video, Enchanted Fairy Garden made from trash, summer upcycling magic begins here. I'll share ideas that blend charm, color, and eco-friendly design. Use the timestamps to explore your favorite projects, and if something sparks your imagination, let me know in the comments. And before we begin, I want you to know, maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just helping a creator grow, you're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. Asterisk. In the heart of summer, when the days stretch long and the air hums with the quiet buzz of bees, there stands an archway unlike any other. It is not carved from marble nor forged from wrought iron, but born from the simplest of materials, discarded glass bottles, each given a second life. The bottles rise in a graceful curve, their bodies cradling water infused with natural pigments. Sunlight passes through them and spills into the garden in streams of fractured rainbows, painting the cobblestone path in dancing color. It feels almost as if you are stepping into another realm, a place where the ordinary rules of the world soften, and magic can seep through the cracks. Around the base of the arch, foxgloves sway in gentle breezes, their bells chiming silently in time with the shifting light. Delphiniums stand tall like sentinels in blue, and climbing roses wrap themselves along nearby trellises, their fragrance mingling with the warm scent of earth. The arch becomes not only a passage but a frame, a living picture through which the garden reveals itself anew with every glance. In the quiet moments, you might notice the way the refracted light lands upon the petals of white lavender, making them seem almost silver. Or how a bee hovers for a beat longer in that splash of gold on the pathway, as if reluctant to leave. Children, wandering in from the yard, tip their heads back to see the colored bottles gleam against the endless summer sky, and sometimes, just for a moment, they swear they see a flicker of wings too small and quick to name. There is a joy in this archway, not just for its beauty, but for the story it tells. These bottles were once forgotten, headed for dust and darkness. Now, they hold light. They invite it in, reshape it, and give it back to the world in color. On late summer evenings, as the sun tips toward the horizon, the arch catches fire in every hue: ruby, sapphire, amber, emerald. And you understand, standing there in the wash of color, that magic isn't always hidden in distant places. Sometimes, it's waiting in your own backyard, in the glow of glass and the turning of the season. As daylight melts into the softness of evening, the garden begins to reveal its second self, one painted not in sunlight, but in glow. Here, tucked between blooms and climbing vines, stand the fairy light infinity bottles. They are unlike any lantern you have seen. Two recycled glass bottles meet at their narrow throats, sealed together as if whispering secrets. Inside, a ribbon of warm white LEDs winds in an endless spiral, made infinite by a mirrored lining that pulls the light into forever. You look once and see the lights. You look again, and it feels as though you could fall into them, walking deeper and deeper into a tunnel made of gold. The bottles hang in clusters from the pergola beams, swaying slightly when the night air brushes past. Wisteria blooms dangle beside them like delicate chandeliers, their soft scent weaving into the hum of the summer night. The glow catches in the petals of roses climbing nearby, making them blush as though holding on to the last warmth of the sun. Along the path, more infinity bottles rest on short wooden posts, their hues shifting, here an amber pooling on the gravel, there a lavender glow spilling onto the leaves of hydrangeas. They do not shout for attention, instead, they invite you in with the quiet language of light. The garden seems to breathe differently here. Footsteps slow. Conversations lower to murmurs. A moth flutters toward one bottle, dances in the halo it casts, and then drifts away into the dark. Somewhere deeper in the yard, the faint trickle of a fountain joins the evening chorus. And perhaps it's the light playing tricks on your eyes, or perhaps it's something more, but now and then, between the infinite reflections, you catch the suggestion of movement. A shimmer, a flutter. Like the trace of fairy wings caught mid-beat. These bottles were once discarded, their glass dulled and forgotten. Now, in this summer twilight, they hold more than light. They hold possibility. A reminder that beauty can be coaxed from what's left behind, and that even in the smallest corner of a backyard, there's space for a touch of magic. In the height of summer, the garden hums with wings. Not just the small, urgent flicker of bees, but the slow, graceful drift of butterflies, each one carrying a piece of the season in its flight. Among the blooms, standing like colorful sentinels, rise the butterfly resting bottle towers. Once, these bottles were cast aside, their glass clouded with time. Now, painted in soft shades of lilac, mint, and butter yellow, they stand in neat vertical stacks, their gentle colors echoing the wildflower palette around them. At the crown of each tower sits a shallow dish, a simple stage where nectar waits in the sunlight. Butterflies land here with the caution of dancers testing a new floor, wings trembling slightly as they fold into stillness. A swallowtail, bold and bright, lingers long enough for you to see the fine dust of pollen clinging to its legs. The towers catch light differently throughout the day. In the morning, they gleam with the dew-silver sheen. By noon, they glow like sunlit candy sticks rising from the earth. Their shadows stretch across the grass, narrow and elegant, while the air around them is alive with soft motion. Standing beside one, you might notice the way the colors blend into the garden's rhythm, coral reflecting the blush of nearby zinnias, pale green echoing the mint leaves, sky blue mirroring the summer sky. The bottles themselves seem to hum faintly, not from sound, but from the quiet energy of life drawn to them. Children find joy here too, tiptoeing closer to see a monarch sipping slowly, careful not to break the spell. Gardeners pass by with watering cans, pausing to watch a painted lady hover in indecision between two towers. It is an installation born not of wealth, but of care, proof that beauty can rise from the simplest materials, and that a garden's magic comes as much from its visitors as from its plants. In the soft evening light, when the day's heat begins to fold away, the butterflies grow still on their pastel thrones. The garden seems to exhale, holding on to these last golden minutes before dusk. And for a moment, everything feels perfectly balanced: the air, the color, the quiet heartbeat of wings. In the warmth of summer, the garden holds its secrets in glass. Along a sun-warmed table, rows of recycled bottles stand like keepers of an old apothecary, each one holding a living fragment of the season. These are the magical herb potion bottles, a gathering of lavender, rosemary, and mint, each sprig cradled in clear water that catches the light. The bottles vary in shape and color. Some are tall and slender, others squat and sturdy, their glass washed clean but still bearing faint marks of a life before. The air here is rich with scent. Lavender drifts in calming waves, rosemary cuts through with sharp green brightness, and mint cools the breath with every inhale. Bees hum past lazily, their interest caught by the nearby blooms of chamomile and daisies nodding in the breeze. As the day moves, the sunlight filters through the bottles, projecting faint green and amber shadows onto the wooden surface beneath. It is a kind of quiet magic, not the flash and shimmer of fairy tales, but the slow alchemy of water, plant, and glass. You find yourself drawn closer, watching tiny air bubbles form along the stems, catching the glint of sun before they drift upward and disappear. Some bottles hang from the pergola, their colors deepened by the glow of afternoon light. They sway gently, casting shifting patches of green and gold onto the stone patio below. Others rest low, near garden benches, so that the fragrance greets anyone who stops to sit. There's a practical beauty in them too. The herbs remain fresh for days, their oil scenting the air each time a bottle is uncorked. Garden visitors lean in, touch the glass, and smile, not always knowing why, only that it feels like holding summer in their hands. And in the evening, when the shadows lengthen and the hum of the day fades, the bottles seem to glow from within. Perhaps it is only the last light of the sun caught in the water, but standing there, you might believe it's something more, a stored-up fragment of the day's warmth, waiting to be poured back into the garden when morning comes again. In the heart of a summer garden, where blooms rise and fall with the turning of the season, there stand flowers that will never fade. These are the upcycled steel flower totems, guardians of color, born not from soil, but from the hands of someone who refused to see beauty lost. Tall and steadfast, they rise above the marigolds and zinnias, their stems fashioned from sturdy rods, their petals cut from reclaimed sheet metal once destined for rust. Now, they wear fresh coats of paint in coral, teal, sunflower yellow, colors chosen not to mimic nature exactly, but to celebrate it in bold strokes. In the morning light, their surfaces gleam. Dew gathers along the curves of the petals, catching the sun and scattering it in tiny flashes. Around their bases, real flowers lean in, as if curious about these unyielding neighbors. Bees land for a moment before realizing there is no nectar here, then drift toward the hollyhocks just beyond. There is a quiet dialogue between the living and the made. The totems stand still, immune to wind and weather, yet they seem to pulse with the energy of the garden. Children reach up to touch the petals, surprised by the cool smoothness of metal where they expected softness. Gardeners smile at their defiance of time, a promise that some colors will not be stolen by frost. In the evenings, as the sun lowers and the air grows soft, the painted petals deepen in hue. Coral becomes almost crimson, teal melts into midnight blue, yellow smolders into amber. The totems seem to absorb the fading light, holding it in quiet reserve. Once, these pieces of steel might have been scraps, remnants of some forgotten project, left to weather in silence. But in the hands of imagination, they were reborn into something that can stand among flowers and not feel out of place. They are proof that beauty isn't always fleeting, that even in a world of petals and seasons, there is room for permanence. And so they remain, through every summer storm and every still day, a reminder that color can be both wild and enduring, if only you're willing to give it a second life. As daylight fades, the garden does not dim, it transforms. The bottle prism pathway lights awaken with the first blush of evening, scattering their quiet magic along the winding paths. Each light is a prism made from what was once overlooked, discarded glass bottles, reshaped and polished until they catch and bend light as though they were born for it. Inside, a single solar-powered glow rests, waiting for nightfall. When it comes, the colors spill freely, emerald greens pooling in the gravel, ruby reds brushing the edges of marigold petals, sapphire blue stretching across lavender blooms. The effect is not loud. It is not the blaze of a festival nor the dazzle of a streetlight. It is gentler, a shimmer that seems to follow you as you walk, changing with every step. In the corners of your vision, the colors seem to move on their own, like a living thing. By day, the bottles themselves are jewels scattered along the path, their surfaces catching the sun in fractured sparks. Bees and butterflies pass by without noticing, intent on their blooms. But by night, they claim the space entirely, guiding guests toward hidden corners of the garden, framing each turn as though it were part of a quiet performance. The garden smells different here in the evening, lavender releasing its last sigh of scent, the earth cooling beneath your feet. The lights pick up those small details, making the shadows softer, the air thicker with presence. These prisms carry with them a kind of whispered history. They were glass once emptied, set aside, considered done. Yet here they are, reshaped into something not just useful, but beautiful in a way that seems meant to be shared. They do not simply light the way. They make you want to walk slower, to linger, to notice how a blue reflection trembles across a rose leaf in the breeze. And perhaps that is their real work, not illumination, but invitation. An urging to see the garden in a way you might have missed otherwise. To find magic not in grand gestures, but in the quiet dance of light and shadow on a summer night. There is a corner of the garden where reality softens, where the air feels lighter, and where you half expect to hear the faint sound of laughter too small to belong to any human. This is where the fairy door recycled planters stand, each one a small invitation to believe in something unseen. Once, these planters were nothing more than forgotten containers, dented, scratched, or dulled by years of use. Now, they are reborn in fresh coats of pastel paint, their surfaces smooth and welcoming. At the base of each, a miniature wooden door has been fixed, some rounded like cottage arches, others tall and slender as if leading into towers. The hinges are tiny, the knobs even tinier, as though made for hands no bigger than a petal. From their tops, summer spills over. Petunias cascade in gentle fountains of color, ivy winds its green fingers down toward the ground, and lavender holds its purple torches high. Bees hover near the blooms, darting in and out as if they, too, might know the secret of these doors. In the morning, sunlight catches on the painted surfaces, turning the planters into little beacons. By afternoon, they rest in soft shade, their colors deepened, their flowers nodding in the warm air. Sometimes a breeze moves through, and the ivy brushes against a door as though knocking politely. Children love to stop here, crouching low to peer at the doors, whispering guesses about who might live inside. Gardeners pass by with tools in hand, pausing just long enough to smile before moving on, as if to let the mystery remain intact. It is easy to forget that these planters began as discarded things. Their transformation is so complete that the past feels irrelevant. What matters now is the way they make people slow down, the way they add a note of storybook charm to an otherwise ordinary path. In the golden light of evening, the fairy doors seem to glow. And though you might know, in the practical corners of your mind, that no one will open them, another part of you wonders. Wonders if maybe, when the garden is still and the moon has climbed high, the doors swing inward and tiny feet step into the summer night. In the heat of summer, the garden belongs as much to its smallest visitors as it does to the people who tend it. The air hums with life, each wing beat a note in the season's song. And here, among the blooms, a quiet kindness waits, the bee Oasis marble bottles. They are simple in form, yet striking in their beauty. Recycled glass bottles, cut or placed horizontally, rest upon low stands. Inside, water shimmers around smooth marbles in shades of turquoise, amber, and jade. Sunlight dances on their curved surfaces, scattering tiny bursts of color onto the ground below. The marbles serve more than beauty. They rise above the waterline, giving bees a safe place to land, to drink without fear of drowning. You watch as one approaches, a tiny shadow moving in a zigzag path, until it alights on a cool glass sphere, bends low, and drinks. Its wings catch the light, turning briefly to gold. Around these oases, the garden thrives. Lavender sways nearby, its purple blooms heavy with scent. Sunflowers turn their faces to the sky, towering above like golden sentinels. Salvia offers spikes of deep blue, while zinnias and coneflowers add their own bright voices to the chorus of color. By midday, the oases are alive with visitors, bees, butterflies, even the occasional dragonfly pausing to rest. The marbles glow hotter under the sun, their colors deepening, while the water remains cool beneath. The garden seems to move in slow motion here, the air thick with warmth and the sound of pollinators at work. In the evening, when the sun begins its descent, the last bees come to drink before returning to their hives. The marbles take on a softer glow, reflecting the gold and rose of the fading sky. You might stand here, watching, long after the garden quiets, the last ripples in the water fading to stillness. These bottles began as discards, emptied, forgotten, destined for the bin. But now, they are not just useful, they are essential. They are rest stops in a long summer journey, small acts of care turned into something beautiful. And in that beauty, the garden becomes not only a place for people, but a refuge for the lives that keep it alive. On quiet summer afternoons, when the air is warm but the wind carries a gentle breath, the garden finds its voice. It's not the chatter of leaves or the buzz of bees, but the soft, playful music of the trash-to-treasure wind chime bottles. They sway beneath the pergola, each one a story reborn. Once discarded glass bottles, dulled and unwanted, now wear fresh coats of paint, ocean blues, sunny yellows, coral pinks, colors that catch the sunlight and spill it in shifting patterns across the garden floor. Inside each hangs a collection of reclaimed treasures, polished metal spoons, ceramic beads, smooth driftwood. When the breeze moves through, the sound is neither loud nor hurried. It is a string of notes, gentle and irregular, like a lullaby that knows no words. The bottles add their own resonance, a soft, hollow hum that lingers after each chime fades. Climbing roses frame the scene in blooms of blush and crimson, their petals stirring just enough to brush against the swaying glass. Jasmine threads its scent through the air, mingling with the faint tang of warm metal and sunlit wood. Visitors pause beneath the pergola, their eyes following the movement, their ears leaning into the melody. In the midday sun, the bottles shine like gems against the blue sky. By evening, as shadows stretch and the air cools, their colors deepen, and the music seems slower, more reflective. It is in these hours that the chimes feel closest to memory, something familiar and comforting, as if you've heard them before in another place, another summer. The wind chimes do more than decorate, they connect. They tie the garden's stillness to its motion, its light to its sound. They remind you that beauty can be made from what's left behind, and that even the smallest breath of wind can carry a song worth hearing. When night comes and the garden falls quiet, the bottles rest in the dark, their painted surfaces holding the day's warmth. And you know that when the morning breeze returns, so will the music, a little different each time, yet always the same in the way it makes the garden feel alive. In the golden hours of summer, when sunlight falls in generous sheets across the garden, there is one place where it becomes something more, something tangible. Here stands the Suncatcher mosaic bottle wall, a quiet marvel built from the forgotten ends of glass bottles. The wall itself is modest in height, a gentle divider between one corner of the garden and another. But its face is alive with color. Emerald, cobalt, amber, and ruby, each bottle base has been set into the plaster like a jewel, forming patterns that ripple across the surface. When the sun strikes them, the air fills with color, spilling onto the patio, the pathways, the blooms themselves. By morning, the light is soft, and the colors fall in pale, dappled circles across a wooden bench. As the day grows stronger, so does the glow. Reds deepen, blues sharpen, greens burn brighter. Each hour changes the wall's expression, as though it is breathing with the day. The plants nearby seem to lean toward it, basking in the warmth of the reflected light. Hollyhocks stand tall like guardians, their blooms echoing the reds and pinks caught in the glass. Lavender softens the base, its purple heads nodding lazily in the summer breeze. Sometimes, you catch visitors pausing here, their hands lifting to feel the warm glass under the sun. Children watch the shifting colors on the path, trying to step only in the bright spots as if avoiding invisible rivers. The wall makes the garden feel alive in a way that is different from flowers or trees. It moves with the light, not with the wind. When evening comes, the last rays of sun filter through in long, angled beams, the colors stretching across the ground until they fade into shadow. The wall grows quiet then, waiting for the next day to wake it again. It's easy to forget that these glass circles once belonged to bottles discarded without thought. Now, they hold light itself, shaping it, sharing it. The wall is proof that beauty can be built from fragments, that even broken things can be pieced together to make something whole. And in summer, when the sun is at its most generous, it becomes a daily reminder of how light, like life, is meant to be shared. In the gentlest corners of the garden, where the air feels cooler and the sunlight filters in slivers through leaves, a small colony has taken root, the mini mushroom bottle sculptures. They are not alive in the way flowers are, yet they seem to hum with the same quiet energy. Each one began as a bottle, forgotten and empty, until color and imagination transformed it. Now, they stand in clusters, their caps painted in the joyful hues of summer, crimson dotted with white, turquoise edged with cream, butter yellow that catches the light like the heart of a daisy. The stems, made smooth from the necks of bottles, have been painted to mimic the pale cream of real mushrooms, though their shine gives them away as something made, not grown. Still, they sit comfortably among the blooms, half hidden by marigolds, alyssum, and creeping thyme. The living and the made seem to exist here without competition, each making the other more vivid. In the morning, dew beads along the mushroom caps, turning them into tiny lanterns for a brief moment before the sun dries them. Bees occasionally pause on a cap's surface, perhaps fooled for a second by its color before moving on. Children love to find them, bending low to inspect the spots and pretending they've stumbled into a fairy grove. As the day warms, the mushrooms glow under the sun, their colors deepening, their shadows crisp against the soil. In shaded areas beneath fruit trees or tucked near ferns, the caps take on a cooler sheen, their tones muted but still rich. By evening, when the garden's light turns golden, the mushrooms seem to gather the last of it, holding it just a little longer than the surrounding blooms. They are not fragile, they will not wilt or fade with the passing season. And yet, they carry a sense of playfulness that feels entirely in tune with summer's spirit. These sculptures remind you that not all beauty needs to be fleeting. Some can be shaped, painted, and placed exactly where you wish, a burst of color that stays, a hint of magic that never needs to be watered. And in a garden that changes with every sunrise, they stand as cheerful constants, smiling quietly in their chosen spots. In the still moments between the rustle of leaves and the hum of bees, a sharper sound cuts the air, the quick, electric whir of wings moving too fast for the eye to follow. Then, like a jewel suspended in midair, the hummingbird appears. It hovers before the hummingbird nectar bottle feeder, a creation born from something once discarded. The bottle, once plain and empty, now glows with a deep ruby paint that catches the sun in brilliant flashes. Inverted and fitted with a narrow feeding tip, it offers a promise that no hummingbird can resist, a sip of sweetness in the heat of summer. The bird darts closer, its long beak finding the opening with effortless precision. Its wings do not stop. They blur into invisible motion, a constant hum that makes the feeder sway ever so slightly. Around them, fuchsia blooms dangle like chandeliers, and trumpet vine spills its orange trumpets down the fence. Other feeders hang nearby, emerald, amber, crimson, each with its own silent guardian, each catching light in its own way. The sun passes through the glass, painting flecks of color onto the nearby leaves. For a moment, it feels like the air itself is blooming. The hummingbird drinks in quick bursts, its eyes bright, its tiny body a marvel of precision and speed. Then, as suddenly as it came, it pulls back and vanishes into the green, leaving the feeder swaying gently in its wake. You find yourself waiting, knowing it will return, maybe not this bird, but another, drawn by the same flash of color, the same invitation. There's something deeply satisfying about the feeder's presence. It is functional, yes, a source of nourishment for these tireless little travelers, but it is also beautiful in a way that feels alive. The combination of glass, color, and movement turns an ordinary garden corner into a stage where nature performs daily. And perhaps that's the real magic of the hummingbird feeder. It's not just about giving the birds what they need. It's about creating a space where their fleeting visits can be seen, admired, and remembered, a reminder that even in the smallest exchanges, there is beauty worth holding on to. Some summer evenings feel as though they've been brushed by the sea, even if the nearest shore is miles away. In the garden, the ocean breeze steel bottle lanterns sway gently, catching the wind and holding it in light. Each lantern begins as a recycled glass bottle, its surface washed to a soft translucence, its color drawn from the palette of ocean waters, deep turquoise, seafoam green, pale aqua. These bottles rest inside sturdy steel frames, their metal reborn from scraps and given new life under a coat of crisp white paint. The design is simple, but it holds a kind of quiet elegance, like something you might stumble upon in a seaside cottage garden. As the sun dips, the lanterns come alive. Candlelight blooms within the glass, throwing a warm, flickering glow that softens the edges of the path. Alongside, lavender sways in the evening air, its fragrance mixing with the faint saltiness carried by the breeze. Ornamental grasses bend and lift again, their shadows dancing across the stones. The bottles do more than hold light, they transform it. The flame's warmth deepens the blues into midnight tones, turns greens into the color of glass pulled fresh from the tide. The steel frames catch the glow too, their painted surfaces flashing gold at certain angles. From the porch, you can watch them move, never hurried, never still. The sway is slow, almost hypnotic, and the sound is a gentle metallic creak, like the quiet heartbeat of the structure itself. Sometimes, a passing moth circles the glass before settling on a nearby rosemary sprig, drawn not by the flame but by the soft halo it casts. These lanterns began as things overlooked, empty bottles, rusting steel. Now, they are storytellers. They speak of transformation, of the way beauty can be coaxed from what the world has set aside. And though their colors are borrowed from the sea, their light belongs entirely to the garden. When night fully arrives, the lanterns remain, small islands of warmth in the cool dark. And if you stand close enough, close your eyes, and let the breeze wash over you, you might just believe the ocean is nearer than you think. As daylight lingers in the long arms of summer, the garden begins to prepare for night. Shadows lengthen, colors soften, but along the paths and flower beds, a quiet magic begins to glow. These are the glow-in-the-dark bottle pebble borders, turning the garden's edges into ribbons of light. Each pebble was once part of a glass bottle, cut, smoothed, and painted in luminous shades that drink in the day's sunlight. Aqua, lime, pale blue, they rest unnoticed under the bright sky, content to wait for their moment. When the sun dips, their transformation is slow but certain. The colors begin to hum faintly, the glow building like the first notes of a song. Soon, they form a soft, continuous light, tracing the lines of pathways, hugging the curves of flower beds. The effect is subtle yet unmistakable, as if the garden itself has decided to outline its own shape in starlight. Lavender and salvia stand tall beside them, their blooms catching a hint of the glow on their lower leaves. Marigolds close slightly for the night, their gold muted but still warm. In the flower beds, roses seem to float above the illuminated borders, while hydrangeas turn into pale, spectral forms. Walking here after dark feels different. Your steps slow. The air feels cooler, scented with thyme and earth. The glowing edges guide you without demanding your attention, like a friend walking ahead holding a lantern just low enough to light your way without breaking the mood. The beauty of these borders is not loud or showy. It's in their quiet persistence, their way of turning what could be ordinary garden edges into something that belongs to both day and night. They do not compete with the blooms. Instead, they frame them, making each cluster of flowers feel like a painting hung in a luminous frame. By morning, the glow fades. The pebbles return to their still, colored selves, blending into the garden's daylight palette. But they are patient. They will gather light again, storing it silently, ready to spill it back into the night. And so the cycle continues, day into night, night into day, with the garden always holding a little light in reserve, just in case someone needs to find their way by magic. In a quiet nook of the garden, tucked where sunlight filters in soft and slow, tiny swings sway gently in the summer breeze. They are not made for children, nor for people at all. These are the fairy swing planters from trash metal, little perches for flowers, lifted just high enough to feel the air move around them. Each swing began as something forgotten, bent scraps of metal, a few worn chains, fragments of frames too small for any practical use. With paint and care, they were reborn in colors that feel like a dream: sky blue, cream, blush pink, their surfaces smooth and fresh, their shapes playful yet elegant. The seats are not empty, each cradles a small pot bursting with summer life. Petunias spill over the edges in cascades of color. Ivy trails down in delicate green ribbons. Geraniums stand upright and confident, their blooms bright against the muted tones of the swing. When the breeze passes, the swings move just enough to make the flowers dance. The motion is subtle, almost shy, but it adds a sense of life beyond the growth of leaves and petals. It's as if the garden itself has decided to rock its blossoms to sleep. Around them, the space feels touched by a quiet enchantment. Moss clings to nearby stones, lanterns hang low from tree branches, and the ground is dappled with shifting patterns of light. You might catch yourself slowing your steps here, letting the scene hold you for a moment longer than planned. Children, when they find this corner, are quick to imagine. They point at the swings, whispering about fairies that must come at night to rest there. Adults smile knowingly, but no one feels the need to break the illusion. By evening, when the air cools and the shadows stretch long, the swings are still. The flowers rest in their seats as if waiting for something, a breath of wind, a visitor, or perhaps the unseen hands of those who come only when the moon is high. They are, at their heart, a reminder. Even the smallest scraps can be given a second life. And in that life, they can hold beauty, movement, and a story worth telling in the language of petals and paint. In the height of summer, when the days feel as if they might never end, the garden holds a gateway to another world. The rainbow prism bottle arch rises above the path, catching the sun and bending it into 1,000 fragments of color. Each bottle in the arch once carried something else: water, wine, soda, before being emptied, forgotten. Now, they are filled again, this time with tinted water that catches light like a prism. Ruby melts into amber, amber into emerald, emerald into cobalt, the hues flowing upward and over until they meet in a perfect arc. When the sunlight passes through, the path below becomes alive with movement, shifting ribbons of red, gold, and green that dance with every breath of wind. Flowers along the side seem to wear the colors as their own. Foxgloves glow in shades they were never born with. Lavender blooms blush with an unexpected warmth. Walking beneath the arch feels like stepping into a story. The air seems cooler here, softened by the colors overhead. Bees drift lazily through the fractured light, and for a moment it's hard to tell if the hum you hear is theirs or simply the garden breathing. From morning to evening, the arch changes. In early light, the colors are pale and delicate, like watercolor. By midday, they blaze with an almost electric clarity, every hue sharp and impossible to ignore. As the sun lowers, the bottles hold on to the light longer than the flowers do, glowing faintly even as the shadows deepen. Visitors often pause at the archway, standing still just to watch the colors shift. Children run back and forth beneath it, laughing as they chase the moving spots of light on the cobblestones. Gardeners stop mid-task to admire how the arch frames the view beyond, not just a gate or another bed of blooms, but the feeling of something waiting to be discovered. It is, in the simplest terms, a structure: glass, water, and sun. And yet, together, they create something far beyond the sum of their parts. A portal, a celebration of color, and a reminder that beauty often waits in the places we least expect, even in the bottles we once threw away. When the sun slips low and the heat of the day begins to lift, the garden transforms. The air cools, shadows stretch, and small points of light begin to wake. This is when the fairy light infinity bottles show their quiet magic. Each is made from 2 glass bottles joined at the neck, their interiors lined with a reflective surface. Inside, a string of LED lights spirals into the distance, reflected endlessly until it feels like you could walk straight into the glow and never find its end. In the fading light, the effect is mesmerizing, a tunnel of gold, amber, or soft lavender floating in the air. Beneath the pergola, the bottles sway gently on their hooks, responding to the night breeze. Above them, wisteria hangs in long, fragrant clusters, and climbing roses frame the scene in blooms that catch the glow. The combination of light and flower creates a kind of suspended moment, one where time feels slower, the world quieter. Along the garden path, more infinity bottles rest on low wooden posts. Their light spills onto the gravel, picking out the silver edges of lavender leaves and the rounded heads of hydrangea blooms. The path seems to lead somewhere secret, even if you know it's only a turn around the corner. Visitors stop here without thinking, drawn to the depth of the light. Some lean close, peering into the tunnel as though they might see something hidden within. Others simply stand back, content to let the glow wash over them. The lights don't shout for attention, they invite it, gently. In the late evening, the garden becomes a constellation of these small infinities. You can see them from across the yard, each one holding a piece of the night inside its glass walls. And though they are built from bottles that once had no purpose left, they now hold a beauty that feels endless. Perhaps that's why they work so well, because they remind you that even in a finite space, some things can feel infinite. That even the smallest light, reflected enough times, can fill the dark with wonder.